Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking about episode 12 of season 7 of Dexter called, in a delightfully inappropriate fashion, Surprise, Motherfucker. And, wow, talk about surprises. I was pretty surprised by what happened at the end of this episode. And, overall I gotta say, except for one misfire from a little while back, this has been an absolutely stellar season of Dexter. It brought back so much stuff that we loved about the show. It was really engaging. There was a lot of stuff going on, some great acting and drama and surprises. Again, not without its flaws. The basically real crap fest episode from a while back, the Phantom Arsonist, who really just didn't amount to all that other stuff, all that much. But again, overall, this is definitely going to go down as one of the best seasons of Dexter ever. So let's get right into it. Let's do what we always do, and let's get into the characters. Let's clear some of the folks off the board first and foremost. Batista. I know a lot of people, including myself, were worried that he was not going to make it out of this season alive. But he did. Angel gets his happy ending, much deserved. Will we see him again next season? I haven't really been following the casting news or anything like that, so I honestly don't know, but I can see Angel working as a sort of a support character, his restaurant being a place where the characters go to sort of hang out when they're not at Miami Metro. And, Angel can, put his 2 cents in on thing, and, well, it also opens up the possibility of if something happened that was of sufficient personal resonance to him, then Angel might unofficially get back on a case. So again, just because he's sort of apparently going to be off to the side for a while, I don't think we should rule out that Angel isn't going to be an important character from now on. And of course, now it comes time to talk about good old Quinn. Yeah, okay, Quinn, dude, this whole thing with him and Jamie. Oh, God. I really don't want to see this go anywhere. I really don't. Quinn, just, dude, pull yourself together and focus on your job, because you're obviously crap at doing anything that resembles a personal life. I guess, I don't know if it's, I guess it's fair to call him a character this episode, but once again, we get to see more of the wonderful Eric King as James Dokes. King has obviously really taken care of himself, because he really does not look all that different from back when he was still on the show. And his interplay with Dexter, it was really some of the stuff I loved the most about the very early seasons. It was the little game of cat and mouse between Dexter and Dokes. It was just, it really was some of the, it really was one of the strongest and most interesting aspects of the early seasons. And just getting another glimpse of that, another taste of that, just really, really was icing on the cake to such a great season. Now, one of the things that's sort of been bugging me about this season is just how Legareta really seemed to have this mad on for clearing Dokes. Now, granted, he was her partner and all this other stuff, but unless I've really forgotten some important details in the years it's been since I've seen season 2, Legareta and Dokes being involved in a romantic relationship, or at least a sexual one, it is a retcon. And, okay, I'm a comic book fan. I've been reading comic books for most of my life, so retcons are nothing new to me. And as long as they're reasonably well done, I'm pretty okay with letting them slide. And this one, it really felt more like a reason to give Legareta some very serious motivation to clear Dokes. And of course, this sort of does sort of beg the question why she didn't put more effort into it over the years. But then again, her stumbling across that slide, okay, that's pretty good. I mean, she didn't really have much, I guess, in the way of reasonable doubt before. So, again, that's something I can let slide. But still, in the end, even though it's a reasonably well done retcon, it's still one that feels very rushed. And I don't know if I'd say forced, but I kind of wish they'd been able to get Eric King to come back for a little bit more than this one episode. Maybe thrown one or two more flashbacks our way as the investigation was proceeding. Kind of give, from Legareta's point of view, a little bit more context to her going on this crusade. But, actors have schedules. There's only so much time and money floating around. So, maybe they wanted to do that. Maybe it just wasn't possible. Who knows? But in any case, so great to see Eric King back. I really can't say enough good things about his appearance here. Now, Legareta. Okay. Now, I am genuinely somewhat sorry to see the character go. She was a very good antagonist within Miami Metro. The one person in the group who really is always kind of out for themselves and causing trouble and causing drama among the other people in the group. I mean, we all know somebody like that, right? But this crusade of hers to clear Dokes of being the Bay Harbor Butcher, well, it certainly did give Legareta something to do besides think about herself. And as we saw recently in last episode and again in this episode, it really did a good job of presenting Legareta as a very formidable person, a very good detective, somebody who's really good at setting up traps, even for people as clever as Dexter and Deb. I mean, that scene between Legareta and Deb, where Legareta knows she's got Deb on a hook, and everybody and Deb and kind of realizes that, at this point she's probably going to be going down with Dexter too. I mean, that was some really, really great stuff. And, of course, Deb's out there throwing out excuses that even a 5-year-old wouldn't buy. I mean, man, you really got to give it up for Legareta. On the other hand, part of it that really bothered me about this episode was just how earnestly she was asking Tom for help. I mean, seriously, Legareta? You are asking your former blackmail victim, whose life and a career you pretty much brought to the brink of ruin, for help. And Tom agrees to this, which is really the mind-blowing thing. I mean, he really could have just sat back and watched Legareta burn, and he had no reason at all to help her. He's back on the force. Anything Legareta does to try and dick with his career is really just going to be digging her own hole deeper, so why not just let her twist? Why not let her burn? I mean, I guess you could say it's a bit of a tribute to Tom's character of him being a good person, but, Tom covered up the death of a prostitute, so I don't really know if he falls into the good guy category. But the thing that really gets me at the end, though, with Legareta is that she's telling Deborah to shoot Dexter, even at a point where Dexter is unarmed. He has put down the knife, and Legareta is still urging Deb to shoot him. Why don't you just stop and say, okay, Deb, put the cuffs on him? In fact, I mean, granted, she might not have she probably was genuinely concerned about, what was going on with Deborah's state of mind, but, in that situation, arrest your brother is probably not going to freak Deb out so badly as kill your brother. So, yeah, bad move there, Legareta. But at the end of the day, Legareta's death was something that really had to happen. And this is something, if you've been watching my videos for this season, that I've been saying was probably in the cards for quite a long time. Am I happy to have been proven right? Well, yeah, I'm the kind of person that is always happy to be proven right, even if it's something in regards to something bad. That's just an aspect of my character, flawed though it probably is, or at least that particular element of it. Not that I don't have other flaws, I have many of them. But I also have a few good points, which is what I prefer to focus on in my life. But hey, enough rambling about stuff that does not have anything at all to do with this episode. So, getting on to what's going on with Deb this episode. I was watching a short clip with an interview for one of the producers talking about the final scene there at the shipping container, and basically he said that at the way it was written in the script was that it was just going to be Deb shoots Legareta, and that's it. But what happened was they kind of just let the cameras go, and Jennifer Carpenter, after shooting Legareta, ran over there and started hugging her body and crying. Again, this was not in the script. This was just the actor kind of going with what felt right. And hats off to Jennifer Carpenter for trusting her instincts as an actor, because man, that just really drove a stake right through me. I mean, the fact that Deb killed Legareta was, a shocking enough, but just to see her go over there and start cradling Leguereta's body, the woman who has more than once seriously dicked with Deb's career and even stood there rubbing her face in it. Now, I know I'm harping a lot on one scene from from a good ways back, but still, that's one of those things that, to me, until this season, that is really the moment that defined Legareta for me. Now, this season has done an awful lot to change that. It doesn't exactly erase her past sins in any way, shape, or form, but it has certainly added a great richness to her character. And, well, let's face it, at the end of the day, storytelling-wise, there really just was no way of keeping Legareta around and having it be believable and not ridiculous, or at least in a way that didn't denigrate her as a character. So, Legareta's death makes sense. And another thing the producer said is, in regards to this, is this Legareta's death and what it means for next season and where Deborah and Dexter's relationship goes. And I don't consider what he says to be a spoiler, because really it's an observation about the characters and their situation. And what the producer said was basically this: that after Legareta's death, Deborah and Dexter are now united in tragedy rather than in love. Now, everything that's been going on between Dexter and Deborah up until this point has more or less been Deborah and Dexter love each other more than just about anybody in the world. I mean, seriously, it's Deb and Harrison are the only two people in this world that Dexter loves more than anything, that he would do anything for. Now, Harrison, he's 3 years old, so he's really just sort of deus ex machina. But Deb, she's a real character, and she has sacrificed enormously out of love in order to protect Dexter. And, well, Dexter has probably not responded to that as well as he should, but at the end of the day, he did sacrifice greatly as well with turning in Hannah. But it is a really interesting observation. Now they are united in tragedy. Now there is no way of getting around it that Deborah is a killer. She killed someone for not in self-defense, not to protect someone whose life was in immediate danger, but simply to cover up something. So yeah, she's a killer, and that is of course going to mark Deborah as a character tremendously, because she's somebody who has dedicated her life to taking down killers, and now she has undeniably joined their ranks. And well, who else is really going to be able to understand what she's going through but Dexter? But the thing is, Dexter has he's always been he's a killer, but he's never been there for justice. He's just really killed as an outlet for his own personal darkness, as a way of dealing with his personal demons. So, Deb's obviously going to be leaning on Dexter quite a bit next season, but how much help is he really going to be? Well, who knows? And this is actually a very unique situation. Now, I really like the way that the producer phrased this in saying that they are united in tragedy. Now, it's not that Deborah and Dexter haven't suffered before as a family, all right? They certainly did suffer when Harry died. They certainly suffered when Rita died, when their mother died. But these are different things. People die. It's just a fact of life. It's just a part of families. everybody has had a point in their life where someone in their family has died. Now, granted, Rita was murdered, but again, sometimes people we love are taken from us in sudden and tragic ways. And this is also something that's not uncommon among families. I mean, I've in my own life, I've had people who I was related to, people who I loved, die of illnesses, and I've had them. Well, basically, one of my relatives was killed by a drunk driver when I was pretty young, but I still remember it, and that was a pretty tough time for everybody. So again, but here, this is something different. This is a tragedy caused by their own actions. This is a tragedy caused by Dexter's need to kill, and Deborah's desire, and ultimately her choice to kill an innocent person to protect Dexter. So yeah, heavy stuff, folks, heavy stuff. So let's wrap all this up character-wise and talk briefly about Hannah. Now, really, I was honestly thinking that this was just she was just going to get packed off to jail, and that was going to be the end of it for her. But apparently not. Now, Dexter tends to operate on seasonal contracts for these big guest stars like Yvonne and such. So the idea that she might pop up again next season, which, as I understand it, is understood to be the final season, well, yeah, that does promise to be interesting. I mean, who knows what they're going to be doing next season? And I really can't imagine that this is a plot thread that they aren't going to wrap up at some point. I mean, it really might have been that they just this character, we can't really do her justice the way we want to, so let's maybe she'll pop up for an episode or two next season. And it certainly would really be interesting to see Hannah as a full-on antagonist for both Deborah and Dexter. Actually, in a way, it really would sort of be interesting to see her as sort of Deborah's version of one of the seasonal antagonists that Dexter always has to deal with. Now, granted, there was some of that this episode, but here, this is not the case of a cop going after a criminal. This is two people who are killers facing off against each other. And in that context, Dexter is an old hand, and Deborah is the rookie. So, that's just an idea, but I really would not be surprised if we don't see Yvonne again next season. And speaking of Hannah, she did in fact admit to Dexter that she did try and kill Deb. I know there's been some fans out there who were very adamant that they really didn't think that Hannah had done that. Well, okay, you have your answer, folks. Let me see here. Now, the question of Hannah does ask a fair question of Dexter. Why didn't you just break up with me if this was what you had these problems with me? And I'll give her that. That is pretty much a fair question. But yeah, I guess I can sympathize with Dexter here. He really had finally found someone who, as he said when he talked about Rita and Lila and Lumen and how they compared to Hannah, that she really was unique among them all. So even though that probably might have been the most sensible thing he could have done, it's understandable that Dexter wouldn't do that. And I did sort of like the comment about things that are right in front of your eyes, and that is such an interesting thing to think about if you think about what's going on in Dexter. I mean, look at how much we've seen people who are bad guys just being able to waltz around right in front of our heroes. I mean, again, Deb was basically engaged to the ice truck killer. As far as anybody at Miami Metro knows, they spent a lot of time working with the Bay Harbor Butcher, and well, they're still working with the Bay Harbor Butcher. Legareta's deceptive nature was pretty well hidden from us for quite a while. I mean, she was always sort of portrayed as maybe not the best person in the world, but there's a pretty big step from going that to helping cover up the deaths of hookers and blackmailing your coworkers. But that's a big theme in the Dexter world, is that people are really not always what they seem. In fact, very often they are not. That everybody has this hidden darkness inside of them, this side of their personality that even the people who are closest to them might not see, or might be completely blind to, just because they are close to them. The psychiatrist Carl Jung really talked about stuff like this a lot. He referred to this aspect of the psyche as the shadow. Now, granted, it usually didn't mean things like I'm a serial killer, but it is something I think worth thinking about. And Jungian psychology, yeah, I mean, it's some pretty weird stuff, but if you ever actually sit down and read about it, it's really, really interesting stuff. I mean, again, kind of out there, but very interesting. Yeah. One thing that I do have to mention that definitely provided a bit of a lightheartedness to this episode, and this was something that a lot of people probably missed. When Dexter goes to talk to the guy's ex-wife, pretending to be his parole officer, he says that his name is Arthur Curry. Now, if you're not familiar with him, Arthur Curry is basically the secret identity of Aquaman. And if you remember back to when we were watching Lewis doing his little online video rant, one of the things he was doing was dicking around with and complaining about and talking about the articulation on an Aquaman action figure. So I'm guessing somebody on the Dexter staff, the Dexter writing staff, is a fan of Aquaman. And incidentally, as I said, I am a fan of comics. Aquaman has actually really been, in the last several years, actually in like the last better part of 20 years or so, has really been undergoing quite a bit of a renaissance. He has been written as a very strong, very interesting character, somebody who is very much up there with the premier superheroes of the DC universe. And I know this might sound pretty hard to believe for folks who are not really into comics, but seriously, Aquaman is one of the primary examples of the idea that in the hands of a good writer, any character can be interesting and dynamic. And like I said, folks, what's going on with Aquaman these days is some pretty badass stuff, especially in the hands of his current writer, Jeff Johns. Very, very talented dude. Let me see here. One thing that I was a little weirded out about was Legareta's talking about the GPS records on cell phones. Now look, I know that if the police can basically say they can get a court order and have the GPS on a phone turned on. That's one of the things that they do if they're trying to find somebody who they think has been kidnapped, is they'll try and find the GPS on their phone. But to the best of my knowledge, phones do not keep GPS records of where we are every minute of the day for weeks on end. I mean, if that was true, then cops would have a very easy time of finding out whether or not somebody committed a crime. They just have to go and get their GPS records. I mean, get access to their phone records. And it's like, well, okay, let's see, the gas station we think you robbed was here at 7 o'clock, and it was robbed last night, so let's see. Let's get the records, and like, oh, hey, your cell phone says you were at the gas station at 7 o'clock last night. I guess you're going to jail. Well, I'm sorry, I've never heard of that, so I'm pretty sure that this is some bull right there. Now, actually, yeah, that's basically my only other real major gripe with the plot going on this episode. So with that, folks, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Again, before I do that though, I should apologize to you guys for the delays. This come out a little bit later than I wanted to. If you're following me on Twitter, I sent out a message saying that I just wanted some time to mull this episode over. I'm glad I took the time to do that. I was able to come across some very insightful comments from the fans and the creators that helped me do this review. And it also ended up being delayed a little bit because I had to go to the dentist yesterday, and I just really didn't feel like doing a whole lot of talking after having had a bunch of stuff poking around in my mouth. So I do apologize for that. But anyway, we're going to call it here. I will definitely, if it'll be back to review the next season of Dexter. I'm so looking forward to it. It's going to be the series finale season, and if it's half as good as this one, we are going to be in for a real treat, folks. I have to give so much credit to Michael C. Hall and Jennifer Carpenter and Ray Stevenson, who I've absolutely raved about this season. Everybody else from the regular cast, all the actors here. So many great people came in to guest stuff this season, like Jim Beaver. Again, I'm just really blown away by all the tremendously wonderful actors that they had this season. The writing, again, except for one episode, was stupendous. Again, this is really about as good as Dexter gets, and I don't think I could ask for too awful much more. So again, we're going to call it here for real. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.